Now that Rick and Morty Season 3's come to a close, we here at Frederator thought it would be a great time to look back at all of the wonderful references that the show has brought us. What's up everybody, I'm Jacob with Channel Frederator, and today we're bringing you Rick and Morty Season 3 references for episodes 6 through 10. Expect the first half of the season a little later. Sit yourself down because we're about to show you some mind blowers. Let's get started. Today we'll start with Season 3, Episode 6, Rest and Relaxation, and the reference we'll start with is Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, and Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Rick and Morty's flash adventure at the start of Rest and Relaxation definitely alludes to the plot of Star Wars, specifically Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, and Episode 4, A New Hope. In the former, rebel ships destroy the main reactor of the Death Star, and the scene looks a lot like what's happening when Rick and Morty destroy the giant ship in the episode's beginning sequence, complete with their swift getaway from danger and the accompanying heroic music. A New Hope ends with a ceremony in which Princess Leia gives Han Solo and Luke Skywalker medals for completing their mission, and for some unknown reason, Chewie just doesn't get one. But the speedy Rick and Morty adventure sequence ends with a similar ceremony where they're given similar-looking medals. The Wolf of Wall Street. When Morty leaves his toxins behind at a spa that he and Rick go to, healthy Morty emerges, and he's a whole different beast. Did I say beast? I meant wolf, specifically. Morty's toxins are basically the self-hating, fearful parts of his psyche, so what remains is an overly self-confident, never-shuts-up version of Morty, the kind of man who would kill on Wall Street, which healthy Morty eventually does. As a broker, Morty talks, acts, and even dresses like Leonardo DiCaprio's Jordan Belfort in The Wolf of Wall Street, complete with the character's blue pinstripe suit. Gravity Falls. When the toxic versions of Rick and Morty, or let's be honest, mostly Rick, flip the switch to make the whole world toxic, a transformation overcomes the globe that is reminiscent of what happens in the Gravity Falls episode Weirdmageddon, in which Bill Cipher, the Demon Pyramid, and the show's ultimate bad guy unleashes pure madness on Gravity Falls. Viewers watch in horror as this perverse world overcomes the benign version we're used to, just as the episode of Rick and Morty when we get to see the impact of the toxins as they take over location by location. From a church that immediately falls into sin to a salad works whose patrons immediately flock to the neighboring Sparrows. Shots fired, your move Sparrows. Further cementing this reference, 8-Ball, the first monster to emerge from Bill's evil dimension, can be seen in the toxic world of Rick and Morty. Well, a very melty version of him shows up about 4.5 minutes into the episode, but his signature 8-Ball eyes are clearly visible. Season 3, Episode 7, The Lantus Mixup. Oh boy, we're doing this. Presidential candidates. At the beginning of the Lantus Mixup, the two Rick news anchors announce the candidates for the citadel of Rick's first Democratic election. They include retired General Rick, likely a stand-in for John McCain, Private Sector Rick, Mitt Romney with his swished back hair, Juggling Rick, Hillary Clinton, whose juggling act in politics is often mentioned in the media, and Reverse Rick Outrage, who has some serious Bernie vibes. And let's not forget Rick Guilt Rick, who is a reference to James McMillan, the political activist known for founding the Rent is Too Damn High party. And when a Morty starts looking like he's going to win this election against a bunch of Ricks, we get a little reminder of what it was like when Donald Trump suddenly pulled ahead in the polls on November 8th of 2016. Some say Evil Morty is a representation of Donald Trump, but nothing has been confirmed. Training Day. When a cop Rick is assigned a new partner, he's surprised to see that it's a Morty, especially because their patrol takes place mostly in Mortytown, the crime-ridden part of town in the Citadel. This mirrors the racial relationship in Training Day, where a cop played by Ethan Hawke is sent to train under a narcotics officer played by Denzel Washington. In one Rick Lantus adventure scene, when Cop Morty drives Cop Rick through Mortytown, it looks like the scene where Denzel's character, Alonzo, takes Ethan's character, Jake, through the hood for the first time. Cop Morty gets out of the car to talk to the other Mortys in their Morty dialogue, a lot of, "Aw, Jesus! Aw, jeez! Aw, jeez! Aw, jeez! Aw, jeez! Aw, jeez! Aw, jeez!" Just like how Alonzo gets out of the car in Training Day and speaks casually to other people of color in the neighborhood, while Jake, the white cop, stands awkwardly by. Harry Potter. One of the plot lines in this unusual and incredibly dark episode starts out at a school that will remind all Harry Potter fans of Hogwarts. The teacher, a Rick, looks quite a bit like Severus Snape. I mean, the haircut kinda gives him away. And the classroom environment feels very much like the Wizarding World, complete with the students' cheeky quips. The students' uniforms even look a little bit Gryffindorian with their red and gold color scheme. And it's also worth mentioning that this plotline turns into a sort of Harry Potter subplot and then turns into its own Stand By Me subplot. Harmon Town. During the moment where the Mortys get to the wishing portal, Glasses Morty wishes for incest porn to be more mainstream, which is a reference to episode 179 of Harmontown, Dan Harmon's podcast. In the episode, Dan goes on a rant about incest porn and why he likes it, which is similar to what Glasses Morty wishes for. Season 3, Episode 8, 8, Morty's Mind Blowers. MC Escher. The beginning of the episode takes place in ruins that seem to take influence from works by Dutch printmaker MC Escher, like the famous Relativity and Ascending and Descending, which depicts the famous optical illusion of the Penrose stairs. These pieces have been recreated time and time again, from Jim Henson's 1986 film Labyrinth to Christopher Nolan's Inception. No surprise that Rick and Morty took its own spin on the famous artwork. The Sandman. While running through the temple, Rick and Morty are chased by a rather familiar figure from the comic book universe, who's best identified as Dream of the Endless, or Morpheus, the protagonist of The Sandman from Vertigo Comics. This guy takes on appearances based on whoever's looking at him and is a personification of all dreams and stories in existence, which goes pretty well with the premise of Morty's Mind Blowers. Weird that he's only around in the first scene of the episode. Contact. The space plot in which Rick comes up with an escape plan is a reference to the 1997 film Contact starring Jodie Foster. It's a movie that follows Dr. Ellie Arroway after she finds conclusive radio proof of extraterrestrial intelligence sending plans for an unknown machine. Luckily for Rick, this meta-plot works seamlessly well, and Rick and Morty are able to escape from Morty's menagerie. Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. Did you seriously think we weren't gonna round out the original trilogy in this video? Well, for anyone who has ever tried a bit of sci-fi at least once in their entire lives, they would know that the death of Bebo is a reference to the death of Hans Tauntaun in The Empire Strikes Back.
I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
It's further established by Rick's assertion that Bebo's sacrifice would protect them from the extreme cold conditions of Venzenulon 7, which is not Venzenulon 9. In Star Wars, the planet Hoth is commonly known for reaching temperatures of minus 60 degrees Celsius at night, and the fact that I know that has to be a testament to my singlehood. Anyway, Ghostbusters! In one of Morty's extremely brief memories, Rick is seen holding a proton pack while a ghost Morty who looks a lot like Slimer hides in fear, quite ironic given the situation. This is, of course, a quick nod to the pop culture franchise Ghostbusters. Season 3, Episode 9, The ABCs of Beth. Video games. If you're a Final Fantasy fan, you may have noticed that Kiara's phasing power seems a bit familiar. It mimics the phasing ability used by Noctis in Final Fantasy XV. Just like Noctis can phase through solid matter, Kiara does the same, teleporting through objects without being harmed. The episode also gives a shout out to Nintendo when the alien portraying young Beth in Tommy's place says that she's jealous of his Nintendo. Hey, I would be too. I'd also be jealous of that ray gun that Beth wants Rick to make because it's similar looking to the one in Call of Duty's Zombie Mode. Though let's be real, the actual star of the show was the sentient stabbing knife. It's not a reference to anything, it's just hilarious.
Hi Beth, you've gotten taller. Shall we resume stabbing?
Sexy aliens. Kiara is pretty much a parody of all the sexy alien characters seen throughout sci-fi properties. For example, she shares some similarities with Aayla Secura from Star Wars, both having long heads, blue skin, and brown clothes, and they also both have the power of telekinesis. Another creature that Kiara resembles is the Na'vi from Avatar. They both have a feline face and blue skin, not to mention they talk about soul bonding. In addition, when talking about Kiara's body, Jerry compares it to Cheetara from Thundercats. Some fans also believe that Kiara is possibly a reference to Liara from the game Mass Effect, since they both have bluish skin, a similar shaped head, and a tattoo on her face, which other Asari in the series are known to have. And I'm not sure if you noticed this, but Kiara has 3 breasts, which resembles the 3-boobed mutant in the film Total Recall, cause why not? Technology. The big internet-related reference in this episode is Reddit, but it's also mixed with a Star Wars reference. Rick mentions a father who created a toilet that resembles R2-D2 for his kids and how it got him on the front page of Reddit, and he compares that to how he treated Beth. Though this isn't a confirmed real post, we definitely all know how Reddit can do that. Though if I were you, I would prepare to see a lot more R2-D2 toilets popping up on Reddit in the near future. Other quick tech shoutouts are when Rick is ranting to Beth and mentions an iPad, when Summer talks about Jerry's weird Facebook rants, and when Rick calls Tommy's play certified fresh, which is a reference to the review website Rotten Tomatoes, where films are either labeled rotten or fresh. Fresh meaning that most critics would recommend it. ABCs. Now that's a bit of a weird title, but that's because there are actually a few different ABC-related references in this episode. One references the 2012 film The ABCs of Death, and that would be for the pun-intended episode title, The ABCs of Beth. The other is when Beth mentions the TV network ABC and their widely popular show The Bachelor. She names this show when she's listing the things that matter to her. I mean, I know she says she watches it ironically, but she might want to reassess her TV priorities. This could also be a reference to claymation animator Lee Hardcastle's involvement in both The ABCs of Death and those terrifying Rick and Morty non-canonical adventures, Game of Thrones. The scenes with Tommy are a reference to some scenes from Game of Thrones. The play that the aliens put on resembles a play from season 6 of Game of Thrones that Arya watches. The Game of Thrones play basically recaps the first few seasons of the show, including the betrayal of Ned Stark, and we see characters from those storylines. Tommy's play does a similar thing, retelling his and Beth's history the way he sees it and how she betrayed him. Tommy also commits incest and cannibalism, which is another throw to Game of Thrones, as their storylines include those themes as well. I mean, a lot of shows include parts of those things, but very few shows have both of them in one show. But we can add Rick and Morty to that list now. Season 3, Episode 10, The Rickchurian Mortydit, The Manchurian Candidate. The episode title is a pun on The Manchurian Candidate, a 1959 novel adapted to film twice in 1962 and 2004 that follows a sleeper assassin in an international communist conspiracy. It pretty much foreshadows how this whole season has been some mega conspiracy on us all. Oh, also, President Keith David is back, so that's pretty awesome. Channel 101. The president tells Rick and Morty about some alien Googa, which is a throwback to a video Dan and Justin made back in 2008 for Harmon's site, Channel 101. Their video was simply called Googas and featured Dan, Justin, and their friends Kelsey and Mike fighting off ghoulies/elf/critters/gremlin type creatures. Minecraft. The popular sandbox game got a whole Rick and Morty intro, and there was no beating around the blocky bush to get this reference across.
So you're mining stuff to craft with and crafting stuff to mine with? Uh-huh. Did your dad write this game? Mean.
This is also partially a reference to Dan Harmon's own obsession with the game. South Park. When Rick and Morty are interrupted in the middle of their Minecraft adventure, Rick says South Park did it 4 years ago. He's referring to the South Park episode Informative Murder Porn, when Stan's parents discover the parental lock that prevents them from watching murder porn. Naturally, they're unable to answer the security question, how do you tame a horse in Minecraft? If we go beyond this quick summary, this video is gonna spiral out of control and the rest of our references will just be left to rot. So after we marvel at the fact that, just as Rick said, Informative Murder Porn premiered almost 4 years ago exactly to the day before the Rick and Morty Season 3 finale, we're just gonna move on. But of course, like The Simpsons, Rick and Morty are late to the tired video game hype. Admitting your faults is the first step to recovery. X-Files. Morty describing the alien of the week that the president tasks the duo with attacking in the Kennedy sex tunnels is a reference to the sci-fi hit television series The X-Files. With this quick pop culture jab, we can assume that Morty makes the perfect Mulder and Rick is the refined Dana Scully, or the other way around. Either one works, really. But the more we think about it, the more we think that we want an episode based on that premise, but that will probably never happen. Not gonna stop us from wanting it, though. Ghostbusters. Again. When Rick and Morty are both tired of being treated like Ghostbusters and everyone questions whether or not the Ghostbusters are still a respected organization, could be a reference to the reception of the 2016 Ghostbusters reboot. This was a rare instance in which no one from the original film saw a point in bringing back the franchise, and as we all remember, much internet rage followed. Much like how a lot of rage followed in this episode. Once again, I'm Jacob with Channel Frederator, and thanks for watching Rick and Morty Season 3 references from episodes 6 through 10. Which reference was your favorite? Did we miss any? Comment below and let us know. Don't forget to click the little bell icon to become part of our notification squad, and we have new videos dropping every day, so make sure to subscribe to Channel Frederator, your Cartoon Central on the internet.